Welcome to Decision Techies. My name is Yogesh Kumar. In last sessions about Kubernetes, we have discussed Kubernetes basics and how you can create a Kubernetes cluster. After those two sessions, we have discussed how you can create a Kubernetes pod. Basically, pod is a set of container with customization. In this session, we are going to explore, in case you have to expand your Kubernetes cluster capacity, how you can do it. Basically, in this session, I'm going to demonstrate how you can add a new node, or you can say new minion, to the existing cluster online. So that is agenda for this session. Though we have already discussed what is Kubernetes cluster in the past sessions, but I'm just going to give a little bit overview. A Kubernetes cluster is a group of servers running Kubernetes. It consists of one or more nodes and a master. Even like you can have multiple masters. When you want to increase the hosting capacity of your cluster, you need to add new nodes because the actual Docker or the pods run on the nodes. Adding new node in the existing cluster is an online process, and there is no impact on the running services or running pods on the existing cluster or existing nodes. As per Kubernetes documentation, you can see link on my screen. Following configurations are supported with Kubernetes version 1.6. Like it can support not more than 2000 nodes. In a single cluster, it means you can have 2000 nodes. It can support 60,000 ports in total, 120,000 total containers, not more than 100 ports per node. It means on a single node, you can have max 100 ports. So that's something which is supported at present. Maybe in future this capacity will expand. For me, like this is a huge capacity or huge provisioning capacity, I can say. What are the prerequisites and recommendations if you have to add a new node to existing cluster? First of all, new node need to be on same operating system and on same patch level of other nodes in the cluster. That's the first thing. I will prefer similar hardware and similar platform. Let's say you are running your nodes on Amazon. So go with Amazon. Don't choose Google Cloud for some purpose. Don't mix and match the things. So go with similar configuration. Networking setup similar the way like other nodes are set up. Let's say on some nodes you are using some particular subnet. Make sure your new node which you are going to add in the existing cluster got access to same network. That's something important. Another important thing, system settings and tunings should be same as on other nodes. For example, firewall, SE Linux, local host entries, or DNS records. Whatever the way you have configured your existing cluster. You can see on my screen, like these are the couple of preparation steps which on the new node. So first of all, I updated my new node with the latest packages. Then I have disabled the firewall, then disabled the SE Linux because on my existing node, these settings I have done. Then I have removed Crony and installed NTP for NTP client. Then I have updated the etc host on my new node as well as on the existing nodes by adding 103, which is the IP of my new node. You can see here for cube-node-3. Then I validated my hosts can ping each other, or my nodes can ping each other from master as well as nodes. So that's something which I have already did in the interest of. To add a new node in cluster, so we have to configure the thing. First of all, we have to install a similar version of Kubernetes etcd Flannel. For that, I'm using same repository which I used earlier on the setup where I have configured the cluster. Then I install Docker, Kubernetes, etc, Flannel, and you may be thinking I said Docker, but it is not mentioned here because Docker will automatically get installed with Kubernetes. This particular package get Docker installed because Docker is one of the dependency package for this one. After that, I will configure the configuration for Kubernetes where I will say, okay, this is log file and this is the privileges, this is going to be master. So these settings you can pick from your existing node, or if you have documented, you can use those settings. But make sure these settings are similar to your existing nodes in the cluster. After that, Flannel, I'm doing same configuration. I'm saying this is my network, and for interface use it1 because my whole connectivity is over it1. Then in the Kubernetes settings, I'm saying, okay, this host name is this particular name. And for this one, API server would be kube-master over port 8080. So this is something which I did similar to the setup which I got. But in your case, if you got some custom settings, make sure you are applying your settings here. Once this is done, now we will be enabling the cluster services, which is Flannel, Kubelet, and after that, we will set it enable the cluster configuration context on the new node. For that, I will be using config set cluster command. Then I will have a check whether my new node got added into existing cluster or not. I can do that by kubectl get nodes. For validation, I will kick off some new builds and see whether my new node is capable or able to host new ports or not. If it is able to host new ports and I can access those ports, it means my configuration is working, my node is healthy, it is part of cluster now. So that is something theoretical, and let me jump to technical session where I can give you a live demo of these settings. Guys, you can see on my screen I got two sessions open. One is Kube Master, which is my master server. This is a new node which we are going to add. So let me quickly show you existing configuration. You remember this was the command kubectl get nodes to get the existing nodes. Right now only two nodes are part of this cluster, node 1, node 2. So task is to add this particular node, which is kube node 3 in the existing cluster. And let me show you port configuration also, like how ports are distributed at present. I'm using wide so I can get the IP address. You can see the ports are running on kube node 1 and node 2. There is nothing running on kube 3 because kube 3 actually not part of cluster at present. So that's the reason. And let's begin the configuration of node 3. I'm jumping to node 3 now. And I already did yum update, but let me repeat it in case some changes. My system is already updated, I'm sure, because I updated it some time back. Okay, no package and NTP. You can see NTP is running, and SC status, SC Linux disabled, and system CTL status firewall D service is disabled. That's good. And last thing, etc host. So I've added entries, so the host names and IP vice versa will get resolved locally. So that something is done, pre-work is done. So let's configure this node as part of cluster. So guys, firstly, we have to configure the repository so we can get the packages downloaded. I will prefer to use same repository. Okay, Vim is not there, so let's install it quickly. I like Vim. So Vim is there. Let's edit the file. And I'm putting configuration, so looks good. And after that, let's install the packages, which is Kubernetes, etcd, and Flannel. As I mentioned, Docker is dependency for Kubernetes. It will ultimately get installed. You can see on my screen. If you see Docker is here, that is like dependency package for the aforementioned packages, so it will get installed. I'm pausing this video because 87 MB download may take a couple of minutes. Okay, so our packages got installed. Next thing which we have to do, we have to put configuration in the config file for Kubernetes, which is etc/kubernetes/config. Here it got default entries. I'm getting rid of all entries because I want to replicate the entries similar to the existing nodes. So I've already have a copy. So these are the 4 entries which I need, where I am telling this is a master, a low privileged false, log level is 0, and logs standard error is set to true. So I'm saving this file. Next thing, I have to configure the Flannel. Flannel, as I mentioned earlier, that's basically network backbone for the Kubernetes. There are other methods also, but I'm preferring Flannel. So for Flannel, here I'm putting the configuration. I'm saying use it1 for all the communication. This is done. Last thing, I have to configure etc Kubernetes kubelet, which is telling the proxy server and what is going to be API server. That's configuration is going inside this file. Again, I'm getting rid of these entries and I'm putting my data here. So skip I, this is done. Here, like hostname is kube node 3. Make sure if you're copy pasting the configuration from the different node, don't repeat the hostname. Put actual hostname. Right now we are configuring node 3, so here I got node 3. Okay, this is done. So guys, this configuration is done. I believe we are good to start the services now. So let's start the services and validate if anything fails or all things work good. So here I'm starting Flannel-D, kubelet and Docker and kubeproxy. So first service started good, second also, third one is going good, Flannel is active. Next thing, Docker service, even Docker started well. So this looks good so far. Next thing, we have to set the cluster context. For that, I'm saying kubectl config set cluster, default cluster is this particular master. I'm telling this is my master. That's done. And it is contacting the master server at this point by using, sorry, not yet. It only cluster default cluster is set. Okay, this is going to be default cluster. Here I'm saying set the context and use this particular user default admin. Next thing, I'm saying now use the context which I just created and configured. This is done. You can see it worked, everything. So now let's jump to master server to see whether new node is visible. If you remember earlier, only node 1, node 2 were visible. So let's run get nodes command. You can see node 3 is ready. It's in and it came in the cluster 1 minute back. It means that node is good. It is healthy. It is member of the cluster now. One thing which you can do, you may be wondering if you're getting some issue. So how you can debug where this particular service or node addition or deletion is getting stuck. For that, mostly logs are triggered and they are saved into var log messages. So let's check this particular node in var log messages. It got something. Okay, you can see here, I particularly grabbed for node 3. It is saying controller manager, actual state of word go failed to set status update needed to be, because this is a node does not exist, because now it is saying node name missing timestamp for node. Okay, that's fine. Now it is saying event go event API resource field path normal. So type normal, reason registered node to event registered node cube in the node cluster. So it means at this stage it registered the node successfully. That's the reason we are able to see the node. In that way, you can see whether your node joined the cluster or not. That's a second method, but even like this command is telling node join. So now we are sure that node has joined the cluster. One thing we can validate, we can see what are the network configuration on the node. So you can run if config or IP command. If config is not there, so you can run IP header. With this one, let's check the Docker interface. It got IP in 172. This looks good, and Flannel also got this particular range. It means the network channel that looks good. So validation would be, if you want to validate whether everything is good on node 3. For test, we can spin up few ports, and if ports get successfully configured on the node 3 and we are able to connect with the new ports on node 3, it means everything good. So let's have a quick test. So for this test, I'm going to kubectl run nginx lab new node, image nginx and port 80, number of replicas 3. So here, let me correct it. It is dash replicas is equal to 3. So if you see right now, we got only 2 ports running on node 1, node 2. On node 3, nothing. With this one, there should be something created on node 3. So this deployment task is created. So let's validate by running get ports command. You can see right now Kubernetes is creating the containers. One container getting created on node 1, second on node 2, and third on node 3. So if container gets created successfully on node 3, that means we are good. So let's wait for a couple of seconds, because on node 1 and node 2 we already got Nginx image, or you can say Docker image. On node 3 it will get downloaded by Kubernetes, then it will trigger the container creation. So let's wait. Let's repeat this command. Nginx image is very small one, so it should be quick. You can see here on node 1 and node 2, as I mentioned, it got created very quickly and they are in running state. But on node 3 it is still creating, because I believe image will be getting downloaded and then it will trigger the container build. So I will wait for a couple of seconds. Okay guys, you can see it took only 1 minute, and on node 3, this is a node 3. So pod is running, or you can say container is running. It means it looks good. So our configuration is good. And the last test, which I just executed, curl http colon, even no need to specify port because that's default. With the IP of the pod on node 3, I tried to connect. It is an Nginx image and I got the HTML page. It means the configuration is working for sure. So guys, that's a way like you can add a new cluster. Sorry, I'm correcting myself. This is the way you can add a new node into the existing cluster. So I believe and I hope this session would be helpful for you guys. If you got any query, any suggestion, just leave a comment on my YouTube channel. Thank you guys.